Hey everyone, this is Gougaaa. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's downloaded the route and given me feedback. The response has been absolutely phenomenal. I didn't expect it and really appreciate it. One of the questions I keep getting asked is how the triggers work at Grosmont for the gates. And as I said in my last video, the gates on this route are unique in the fact that they require these triggers to open and shut them, open them, and to set the signals. The signals are interlocked with the gates, and I did this because the gates that come with Train Sim didn't really do what I wanted them to do. Didn't react how they do on the prototypical line. So what I've done is, just for this tutorial, the 47 doesn't normally belong on this route. It was just a quick the first train I dragged out the box, and we're going to have this 47 going to the tunnel, crossing the gates, coming back into platform 3. So there'll be 2 movements across the gates, and then the gates will close again. As you can see, the scenario time is 12 o'clock, which is important because there are 2 types of trigger which can be found under the signal icon in the scenario editor. The first one is a time delay, and that looks at the scenario time. So if you wanted the gates to open at 25 seconds past 12 exactly, this is the trigger that you'd use. The second trigger is the approach delay, and that looks at when a train approaches this trigger, that's when the trigger gets activated. And it looks at how many seconds that the trigger, you can add how many seconds after the trigger gets activated the gates open. So we'll look at both of them. First of all, I'm going to put a time trigger in here. Anybody who's used to route building will know what this arrow does, but some of you others might not. So basically, you select the time delay, you click once to put the clock down, and then you get this funny arrow thing that fits into between the tracks, and you click once just to set it down in the tracks. So and then right click to come off it, and it just leaves the clock there. So if we click on the clock, we get the arrow back. And what we need is this arrow to point towards the gates, and you can do that by if you left click on the arrow, keep your left mouse button pressed down, and you can move it around, and as you move it, press the shift button. It then changes the direction, so take the finger off the shift button, it moves back again, and press the shift button, and it points back towards the gates. So we want it pointing towards the gates. When it's pointing towards the gates, if you take your finger off the mouse button, that'll stay set. Now what we're looking for is this arrow to be on this side of these signals and the gates, so it's always arrow, signal, gate, wherever you put it. So if you put it in this track, it would be arrow, signal, gate. If you put it down the arrow, it's arrow, signal, gate. So it's always arrow, signal, gate. Once you've put the arrow down, if you double click on the clock icon, you get this little box on the right hand side of your screen, which has 2 input boxes. The first input box is how many times the train is going to cross the gates. So for this instance, it's going to cross into the tunnel, and then it's going to come back onto this platform. So that's 2 crosses across there. So we're going to put 2 in there, followed by a slash. Don't worry about the slash; it just needs to be there. In the right hand side, this is a timed delay. So on this particular case, we're going to put the scenario time that we want the gates to open. So the scenario starts at 12 o'clock, so I'm going to put 12 o'clock and 25 seconds, and then press enter. So what's going to happen at 12:25? This trigger is going to send a message down the track to the gates saying, "I need you to open." The gates will then open and send a message back to the trigger saying, "I've opened," and then the trigger will then send a message to this signal saying, "The gates are open. If it's clear down the track, you may clear the signal." So we'll see whether that works. Now, one thing when testing scenarios, lots of people probably know this already, is especially with signals, don't just press replay and think it's all going to work, because it won't necessarily. The signals don't reset themselves properly unless you come all the way out and then press replay to go back in. So we'll just wait for that to load back up, and then we'll see if it works. So you may notice that the gates always start open. Unfortunately, that's just a way that it happens. I tried to make it so they started closed, and it was a disaster. It didn't work. I might try again at some point, but it seems to work otherwise, so we'll leave it as it is. We're looking at the time, so at 25 seconds it starts the sequence. Now the sequence start, it takes 4 seconds for the gates to start opening after the sequence is pressed, so it's going to start at 29. So the gates start opening, and then what it does is it sends a message back from the gates to the trigger saying I've now opened, and then the trigger sends a signal to that a message to that signal, and the signal will clear, providing the track is clear in front of it. I ain't going to worry about speed limits. I just want to get on with the tutorial, so if you're worried about the speed, shut your eyes for a minute. So this is the first pass across the gates. As you remember, we said we were going to pass twice, so the gates won't actually close. Just be careful I don't run past the stopping point. That's that open too. And you can do it with that tunnel. Get there in the end. So as you see, the gates haven't closed. I'm just going to run back into the tunnel far enough to see the signal. I'll stop again at the stopping point. What a disaster. So the signal's gone back to danger. The route's now set into platform 3. We're waiting for this signal, and we're waiting for the stopping. So we've got the signal. And again, I'm not going to worry about speed. I'm just going to push on. I don't know whether 47 was the quickest one to go for, but we'll get there in the end. So this is the second pass across the gates, and as we pass through the gates will close behind us, hopefully. And they have done. So that's the timed trigger. So if I come out of that, and we'll just go back into scenarios, a couple of points we'll make. First thing to say is that if as a scenario author you think, could have done with the gates being shut 5 seconds later, you might think you'd be able to just click on that and edit this box here and make it 30. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. I've tried it quite a few times, and it never keeps that the new number. It always reverts back to what was in there before, after the scenario's been played. So my advice would be click on it, delete it, and then put a new one in. A second thing to say is that this, to emphasise really, is that it has to be in the right position. So for the platform sides, it's always around that location, again that location there, and around about there. It's always got to be trigger, signal, gate. It's always got to be like that. I'll show you the positions further down the track at the end of the tutorial. Right, let's have a look. We can change this slightly. What we're going to do is we're going to run into the tunnel. I'm going to come back, and then we're going to run down towards the sheds. So that's 3 runs across this time. So again, I want to change this. It's no good just trying to change it in the box. I've got to delete it, and we'll put the time trigger in. So I'll set it down. One mouse button to set it down, you've got this the arrow into the tracks, another mouse button click to set that down, and then the right mouse button gets rid of the second one that appears. So click on it once, left mouse button, move it around. As you're moving it, press the shift button, point it towards the gates, let go, and then double click on the clock icon. So we're going to have 3 movements across the gates this time, and again we'll have it at 12 and 25 seconds. Right, so what I'm going to do is this loco is going to move into this tunnel. It's going to come back onto this onto platform 3, and when he gets here, it's going to stop, and we're going to have the signaller change all these points and everything. There's going to be a bit of a delay, and then we want this signal to change. Well, we've already told the gates there's going to be 3 movements, so we don't really need to send another train movement to the gates, otherwise that would be 4 and they would never close. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an approach delay this time, so that when the train hits this trigger, it's going to set the timer, and then we'll have it, I don't know, 30 seconds after the timer's set, we'll have the signal trigger. So I've one left mouse button to set it down, one left mouse button to put the arrow in, right mouse button gets rid of the next one, and then we're just clicking on the clock icon again. We're pressing the shift as we move the pointer with the left mouse button pressed. And when it's pointing in the right direction, just let go of the mouse button, and that should stick, pointing in the right direction. So I'm going to double click on this. Now, like I said, this time we don't need any more trains sending to the gate, because like I said, we've said 3 already. If we were to put another 1 in there, that would be 4. It would be expecting 4 movements across the gate. There's only going to be 3, so the gates would never close again. So this time it's going to be 0 additions to the gate. And the right hand side, because this is the approach delay, it's only it's a time after the trigger has been hit, not the scenario time. So if you want it to be 30 seconds after the scenario is triggered, you put 0000 and then 30 seconds. I think we'll have it at 20 seconds in this one just to be speeded up a bit. Okay, so we've got 2 triggers. We've got the first one, which is saying there's 3 movements across the gates, and that's going to start at 12 o'clock and 25 seconds. The train's going to move forward and then come back, and as it crosses this trigger, that's going to start the timer for this trigger. And this trigger is saying there's no more additions to the gate, because we've already had 3, we don't need any more. And at 20 seconds I'm going to send a message, because the gates are already open, we know this. We'll send a message, to this signal here, and providing it's clear ahead, this signal will clear. I think we'd better just reset where this loco is going as well, so just bear with me a second, because the final destination is no longer Grosmont 3. We'll go to go into the other side of the tunnel, and then just need the final destination to be the same. Just check that's about right. It's okay. So let's try that and see. Again, I'm going to press save. As you can see, the gates are already shut. That just proves that the signal is not resetting properly. It never does in the in train sim. So you've got to come all the way out and then press replay to go back in, and then all the signals will be reset to how they would be if somebody started the game. Okay, so I'm just waiting for, like I said, the gates are going to shut. I'm just waiting for that 25-second marker. So 25 seconds, sequence starts. It takes 4 seconds for the signaller to start opening the gates. It starts opening the gates. The gates then send a message back to the trigger saying we've opened. The trigger says OK, and says to the signal, providing it's clear ahead, you can clear. So it's all locked in. If these gates don't open, this signal won't clear. Again, sorry for the stuttering, it's OBS and train sim at the same time, not really liking it, and my computer being quite old. Try and get the run into the tunnel correct this time. Okay, so we're at the stop point, so that's starting. The route's been set for us, we're just waiting for this signal. So we've got the signal onto 3. And you're going to worry about speeds. If you don't like it, shut your eyes. So we're on to 3, and this time the gates won't close behind us because we've got that third movement to make. So we'll pass the signal so we can see that happening. So I think we said about 20 seconds from the stop, so we're probably looking at about, I don't know, 45, something like that. And the gates stay open. I'm just waiting for this signal to clear as a result of that trigger. Making a worry. Yep, there we go. I don't know how long that was, but got there in the end. Can I hide behind the fact this is beta? So we'll run into the sheds. Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll run the right way. Run the right way into the sheds, that'll be a good idea. Oh, hear everybody now shouting at me. And then we'll just look backwards, and as we run across now, this is the third movement across the gates, and the gates should close behind us. So I'll not run it all the way into the sheds, we'll just have another quick look at the locations. So the locations of these triggers, as I've said on this side, it's fairly easy because you can see the signals, so one here, and one about here. You can put multiple triggers on the same line if you need to, so time triggers, if you wanted, I don't know, wanted to open at different times for different trains coming along, you can do that. You just stack them up behind each other. We have to actually go all the way out here to put this trigger on, because this signal here shouldn't clear, and this is prototypical. It won't clear unless the gates are shut. So gates are open for the trains. So this trigger needs to be sort of in this location here, heading into the tunnel. And again, it can be either the approach or the timed one. You'd probably want the approach one there if it was trains coming in from Gougaaa. If you've got a train coming out of the shed, you'd think it would probably go here, but actually this signal this signal doesn't care about the gates. This signal can clear without it, so the actual trigger goes the wrong side of this signal, because it's actually the signal further down the line going. It's actually this signal here that is affected, or that looks at whether the gates are open or not. So I've found, for ease of use, trying to put the trigger in the tunnel itself is a bit difficult. So I'll put the trigger here, and that actually works fine. And again, if you wanted one for, if you were starting a loco here, I don't know why you would, but if you were starting a loco here in a scenario, you'd put your trigger this side. This is actually a repeater signal of the signal that's further down, but you'd put your trigger here and trigger it that way. I think that's all I need to say really about that. It's early stages for the triggers. This is the main reason for this being a beta rather than a final release, because they were completely untested. I didn't know whether they were going to work properly or not. But I think they are. Certainly the scenarios I've done seem to work quite well, and I've actually started working on a quick drive scenario, and it actually triggers for that as well. I've just put an approach delay of 1 second here, and what happens is when you start the quick drive, it shuts the gates, obviously, because they start open, and then a few seconds later the gates open and the signal triggers. So it seems to work okay there as well. So I hope everybody has a play with them. What I would say is, don't spend too much time on scenarios at the moment while it's in beta, because it's possible that I could change something somewhere and it could wreck your scenario. If you spend a long time on it, you're going to be really angry with me. So I don't want that to happen. If you come up with a really good scenario and you want it including with the route when it's on the final release, give me a shout and we'll try and get it in there. And that's it. Okay, alternative ending time. You might have noticed the cut. Just suddenly realised I forgot to tell you about the shed doors. It's the same for Grosmont and for Pickering. The shed doors are exactly the same as the gates, but obviously this time you haven't got signals. So if you've got a loco starting in the shed, and you wanted a timed trigger, if you just put your trigger point here, so for, I don't know, 10 seconds after the scenario starts, it will open that door, and it's the same for all the doors in the sheds. So I think that definitely does cover it now, and I hope you have a good time playing with it. Thanks a lot. See you next time.